Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Leverage Your Podcast show. And today we're going to talk about stars and celebrities and like having them, fancy people on your show. I know it's exciting when you have a high caliber, even just regular guests on your show, and it can be a little nerve-wracking. But you can have celebrities on your show thanks to Jason, who started PodStarz. And I think we met ever so slightly when we were at Podfest in Toronto, or maybe you were at the back of the room, or your posse was back there. But nice to have you on the show.
Oh, I'm very happy to be here and happy to connect with someone else who took the time out of their day to hit the Toronto scene. So I don't talk to very many people
Yes,
from Toronto, so this is good.
I know. The industry is starting to, it's not just American. It's definitely becoming a little bit more prevalent in Canada. I do feel like we've been a little bit slow on the uptake, but it's pretty hot and heavy now in Canada. It's good to see.
Yeah, I mean, I with all the success of other podcasts, you would think that Canada would be all over it,
I
but it's
know.
almost like we're a step behind, and I can't figure out why. Same with why we don't have Venmo and Cash App. That would make things much easier
Yeah,
for my business, let me tell
wouldn't
you.
it? Absolutely. So yeah, good to have another Canadian on board here too, of course.
Yes.
So tell me just to kind of get some background, like why did you start Podstars and when?
So the idea of Podstars came around the first wave of the pandemic that we all
Mhm.
loved so much. Um, I was in my garage, basically indulging in a few adult beverages,
Yes.
maybe too many. And my wife came outside and said, like, you have to find a hobby or something to do. You cannot just sit out here and people watch, which wasn't even people watching. There's nobody outside. But I mean, that's all we did. So
Mm.
I was like, you know what? You're right. So I did what everyone else did. I was like, I'm going to start a podcast. I was an avid listener, Joe Rogan, wrestling podcast, whatever was out there. And I was like, what can I talk about? Well, I was a bit of a class clown. I hung around a bunch of other class clowns. We got into some hijinks back in the day. So I figured I would do like a comedy podcast with a little touch of
Cool.
like true stories that we went through and,
Yeah.
just mix it up. Within, I think it was 14 episodes, I had a company reach out to me via my email and ask if I wanted to do paid ad reads or if I was willing to accept paid ad reads.
Yeah.
I was I was like, of course, absolutely, let's do it.
No brainer.
So that yeah, so they asked for my download numbers, which I figured out how to forward them, and they came back with, listen, we love what you're doing, but your numbers need to go up for us to invest. I said,
Mm.
okay, so what do you guys suggest? Because when I started doing this, it wasn't for money. It
Yeah.
wasn't to monetization wasn't the furthest thing from my mind. It was basically just to fill time and have some fun. So now it was like, wow, I'm getting some success right off the bat. And I asked them suggestions, and they said the best way to do it is to have some big names on your show,
Mm.
go on social media, announce it. People see that, they download your show, and then they stick around for your further shows. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it could be a one-off, but if you've got good content, they'll stick around. I was like, that's a fantastic idea. So I'm on Instagram, which, being 44 at that time, I really didn't know how to use, still don't. Trying to DM people. I'm on Twitter DMing people. I'm doing everything I can. I'm not getting any responses, and the ones that I do get back are just an outright no.
Hmm.
I did get a few out there said like, I will do your podcast for such and such a fee. I won't do it for free. Okay, so I started to weigh my options, and I chose one minor athlete celebrity who was in my price range, and I booked him the day of the. He asked for the money up front, which I was like, okay, this must be a thing. So I sent it to him. The day of the podcast, he didn't show up. Social media, I'm reaching out to him on social media, no responses. I see he's on Twitter because I can see his timeline.
Hmm.
Uh, just ignoring my messages, and this went on for a couple of weeks now. The company reaches back out to me and says, what's going on? Like, where are we at? And I said, listen, this is the situation. And the company was very straightforward. They're like, that's not really our problem. Like, make it happen, or we've got to move
Cool.
on. And I was like, yeah, I get it. So after a little bit of social media not, not really embarrassment or anything like that. I kind of said
Pressure.
something and pressure. He did eventually do my show, but during this whole process, I kept thinking to myself, it can't be this hard. Like
Right?
it shouldn't be this hard. And I saw both sides of the coin after talking to some people. where celebrities are constantly saying like, I'm getting bombarded in my DMs for podcasts. I'm always doing people's shows and blah blah blah. Like I'm sick of doing it, and what's in
Yeah.
it for me? So I saw a little bit of that, and then I saw the other side too, where it was like, uh, it's such a great opportunity for everybody, for the celebrity to talk about their books or their
Yeah.
TV shows or their signings or their appearances. It's a good thing for us because we have them on our show, our downloads go up. So it's kind of a win-win. And I just had to sit down and think about how I could put this all into a package. And then for my friend's birthday, my wife suggested I get a cameo for him from one of his celebrities that he liked. And then it hit me. I just took a little bit of the cameo process, where it's like you can pay a celebrity to come on your podcast. That way, there is no more bombarding them,
Yeah.
begging, wasting your time. Like your episode's due in 3 or 4 days. I got to get somebody for my show. So that's what I did. I took Cameo's premise where you could pay someone to be in your show. I put them on the website. I would tell the celebrities it's a safe space. You're not going to get sandbagged with questions because we vet the podcast just to make sure
Yeah.
it's safe. And that's what I did. I built this site. Again, back to the being 44 and not understanding how complicated things are. I thought this website would be a little bit easier to build than it is or was. It was not. It was extremely costly and very time consuming. So it took us a lot longer than we thought. The other problem we had was we wanted to make sure that we had a fully stacked grocery store full of celebrities and
Mm,
professionals to
hmm.
offer, because if we opened our doors and we didn't have a lot of talent to book, it wouldn't have been as impressive.
Yeah.
So we went the route where we wanted to have, I think it was, we wanted like at least 100 of each, 100 professionals, 100 celebrities, because we're not just a celebrity booking site.
Yeah.
We also want to give opportunities to people who are amazing, who don't have platforms, like FDNY, scientists, teachers, authors who don't have the platform to go on as many podcasts as they'd like, but people who have amazing achievements and will be great guests, but you have to be able to find them. Well, we've done that. So we found
Yeah.
safari guides and Major League Baseball umpires and
Oh,
lawyers.
cool.
We have 4 or 5 members from Court TV on our site.
Oh, neat.
We'll talk about true crime and stuff like that. So I built a giant website where you can have both. You can talk to
Yeah.
professionals for $9 a month, or you can rent a celebrity for your podcast, just like Cameo does. And yeah, we have a whole bunch more to offer as well. But yeah, that's where it started, and that's how it happened. It took about a year and a half to get enough talent on the site to be happy,
Yeah.
and also to get the site working, because we had some technical difficulties
The
because,
joys of business.
well, again, I wish technology was my thing. Wrong age group, I think. So I started to understand once my developer would break it down for me,
Yeah.
because a lot of our celebrities were saying they were sick and tired of giving their email addresses out for Zoom
Yeah.
links
That makes
or
sense.
whatever. So we took that into consideration. So our site, the entire interview goes through the PodStarz site. You never connect with the celebrity until you're
Yeah.
actually on the site. So there is no more checking your email for addresses and stuff like that.
They have
So
more
there's
protection.
very much more, very much more. Also was one of the big problems we were told was time zone difference, where
Uh,
people couldn't figure out UTC to EST or vice versa. So people were showing up an hour late or an hour early or not showing up at all. Well, our site converts that automatically. So if you book from Texas and I book from California, our site tells you exactly what time to be there for you. So
yeah.
both parties know
You don't have to
exactly what
figure
time
it
to be
out.
there. No, and it's a big thing. The 4 hour difference in London or whatever it is, like, could be huge for your show. So
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
wanted to make sure that that got dealt with. And what's the other one? There was another big one. I guess we'll get to it as we go, but
Yeah, totally.
just a matter of like getting all of these things down for everybody to be happy and safe, and
Yeah.
all the podcasters to just, you know, not get burned out. Not worry about like, oh, I'm 15 episodes in and I'm not getting the downloads I want, so I'm just going to fold up shop. Well,
Yeah.
Podstars is here to make sure that you don't do that, and we can hopefully take your podcast to the next level.
So the benefit obviously is more downloads, more attention. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
So we wanted the downloads are the big one. So
Yeah.
even when I had my show going, I was finding that I started off with 2 shows a week because I did have a lot of content, and I slowly started to burn out. Actually, not even slowly, I quickly started to burn out.
Yeah.
So I went down to 1 show a week, and then it was every other week. And I started to feel like it became more of a chore than it was
Mm,
enjoyable when I started. because I would sit down with a pad and I would be like, I want to talk about this. And it just felt like I was forcing myself to do something that I started when I out of love. Like I really wanted to do it when I did it. Now it feels like a chore and now it's not fun anymore. But that's because I was working so hard to make the episodes as good as I could.
Right.
Figure if we can take a struggling podcaster who's in that same boat, who could be like, you know what, today I'm just going to have a great interview with a guy who legitimately is staring at a giraffe outside of his window in South Africa right now. His name's Alex Colburn. Fantastic interview. And you know what? I also found that a lot of podcasters pigeonhole themselves, whereas I'm going to be an air fryer podcast. So I'm going to talk about air fryers every single show for the next 400 episodes. Well, at some point, I think that you're going to start to maybe talk about the same content.
Yeah.
You're going to start falling over yourself. You're going to start to, it's not going to be as much fun for the listener anymore because I've already heard this before. There's only so much I can hear. Well, if you are on Air Fryer Podcast, then why don't you go on PodStarz site and grab a chef who may not talk about
Yeah.
air fryer specifically, but can help you out and bring some new life to your show. So that's
Yeah.
also what we wanted to do because going to those PodFest conferences, a lot of podcasters would tell us like, wow, I'm a baseball podcast and I don't know what to talk about anymore. Well, we have Major League
Mm.
Baseball players on our site.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not throw some new juice in your podcast and give you that influx of excitement that maybe you're a little lacking a little bit.
Yeah. I love that idea. Now, when you're on the side and you're like, okay, I want, a high profile professional, I want a celebrity. How do you choose like who? Like, do you have when you meet with your clients, do you have like a certain criteria?
So what we basically when someone signs up to the Podstars website, they get a welcome to Podstars email, and I give them basically an open door to contact with us via email, social media, whatever way. Whereas if you want any suggestions on who to book, I have a ton. There are some people who haven't been booked on our site yet, so I can't talk about them, but the ones who have
Yeah.
been amazing guests and we've gotten amazing feedback. So again, going back to the pigeonhole thing, I don't believe that just because you're a baseball podcast, you have to interview a baseball player.
Okay.
Why not talk to an author who wrote about baseball? Like there were
Thinking
different
outside the box a little bit.
exactly. There are different ways to talk about your subject, and maybe you don't even have to talk about baseball. Maybe it could be one of those days you'd be like, for the last 80 episodes, we've been talking about Major League Baseball, but today we are going to talk about pole dancing, and we have a professional pole dancer on the site. So
Yeah, yeah.
just mix it up to bring something new to the
Yeah.
people who are listening. Because at the end of the day, I want to listen to wrestling podcasts, but even I get sick of listening to the same
Fair
wrestling
enough.
podcasts. I want to mix it up a bit. So we give an open door. So if you want to contact us and say like, who do you suggest? I'm
Yeah.
all about it. If you want to contact us and say like, I've been podcasting, what am I doing wrong? Or what can I
Right.
do better? I'm not a podcast professional by any means, but I've been around the business long enough now, and I've met with so many people and had so many Zoom meetings and been on so many podcasts that I have a little bit of advice that I'm willing to share. And if you want to talk on a Zoom call for 15, 20 minutes, it's totally free and I'm
Yeah.
available and I'm happy to do so. I want to help all the podcasters, even the ones who are somewhat successful. Why not have a chat? And I guarantee we can help each other with something. And I'm all about it because being a married man with children, I don't really have much else anymore. So I'm really an open book, and my life is totally an open door for
Yeah.
everyone. I'm willing to talk to you as long as you like.
And sometimes you just need someone to like spitball those ideas, right? And then you get like a fresh perspective and you're like, oh, I totally never thought of
Exactly.
that.
And that's happened to me on business calls that I've had with Podstar, where
Yeah,
I'm not seeing the forest through the trees, but somebody on the other side is seeing something so easily that I'm missing, and it's helped great. It's been
totally.
a fantastic help to us.
So like when I think celebrities, I think like, oh, there's like legalities that I need to worry about. Like, are there rules about like what questions you can ask them? Do they usually have set questions? Like, how does that part work?
So on the site, when you initially sign up, we ask that you go to our FAQ section and our legality section where it says things like, if you sandbag the celebrity, then you're not getting your money back. The celebrity's going to be paid, and you're going to be taken off the site, because that's not what we're all about. Podstars is very much about being positive and helping each other.
Yeah.
So if I have someone complain, which, touch wood, don't think I have any here. We haven't had a complaint or an instance like this yet. Now, is it going to come in the future? Most likely. I would assume we're going to
There's a
cross
bad
that.
apple in every crowd.
Exactly. But we don't make anybody sign anything. The celebrities that are on our site, they're not exclusive to Podstars, although we do ask them to not take outside bookings if possible, because it kind of defeats the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if one of our celebrities like Tom Arnold gets an interview from Joe Rogan, obviously, I'm not going to say,
Totally.
Tom, you can't do Joe Rogan, the most successful podcast in the world. You're a part of Podstars. So we leave it pretty open. And as far as like legalities, I mean, if somebody wants to attack or bring up something that a celebrity doesn't want to talk about, I
Right.
mean, that's we thought about it, like, but first of all, we don't think that's going to happen, mostly because why would you want to do that? Because by putting that out on social media or publishing your episode, it just makes you look like a horrible
Totally.
podcaster. And getting another guest on your show is never going to happen. It's done. Like
Yeah.
you've killed that horse. So
Valid.
yeah, so we've had that question a bit, and maybe there is a way to get some sort of legal, documentation going there, but no, we're pretty much
Yeah.
just everybody just help each other and be nice, and so far, like I said, so far so good. No instances to report
That's good to hear.
so far.
So, because I mean, you can be starstruck by some of them and you have them on the show, and there's like, you have your topic that you want to talk about, but like, we're human. Like, you get
Yeah.
curious about, like, you know, their life, what goes on behind the scenes and stuff like that. So, yeah, like, do
So
you have to set those parameters on like do they act? Here's a question. Do they
yeah,
actually have one sheets and like interview topics and interview questions?
some of our celebrities have that on their bio, where they'll be like, if you're booking me, I prefer to have the questions ahead of time, and that
Right.
way the podcaster will email it to us, and then we forward it
Okay.
accordingly. What we do is we gave them a 10-minute window. So when you book that interview with the celebrity, so I'll just use Tom Arnold, because like
Yeah.
I love Tom Arnold, he's great. So when you book Tom Arnold for a 2 o'clock show, you cannot enter the interview until 1:50. At 1:50, you and Tom Arnold are connected, assuming everyone gets there on time, and that's the 10-minute window for you guys to go over anything that you
Right.
may not want to talk about. So if Tom Arnold didn't want to talk about Roseanne, which he absolutely does, then that would be Tom Arnold's time to say, listen, I really don't want to talk about this, so please don't talk about
Fair
that.
enough.
And it has happened a couple times, and there's been no problem.
Yeah. I mean, you
Just
have to respect the other person regardless.
just recently, I mean, I'm not sure how you familiar are with professional wrestling, but we have a
Not,
lot of
that's
professional
okay.
wrestlers on our site, and
Yeah.
Vince McMahon was a topic of conversation because of the controversy that he's currently surrounded in.
Mm,
Some of the professional wrestlers have decided to not weigh in on that, because
fair enough.
it's just they don't want to do it. They have a good relationship with Vince or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
So they tell me to tell the podcaster, Vince is off limits. So if you don't want
Yeah.
to book it, we'll refund you. So that way they don't have to have that uncomfortable conversation
Yeah.
the day of
True.
the podcast. So we'll do that for them.
Yeah, that's perfect. And is there any specific like etiquette? Because again, you said you have that, 10 minutes beforehand. I mean, really, when we're podcasting, we have that time to kind of like get to know the person. There's obviously, follow-up steps, or how can we work together? Like, is there any etiquette of what you should and shouldn't do within those interviews?
We've left it pretty much wide open. Um, uh, After 16 months while building the site, we went to a lot of podcast conferences and got a lot of research and development and talked to a
Yeah.
lot of people. And the great thing about podcasting, and maybe not now, there's a few bad apples out there, like you said, but for the most part, podcasting is such a positive venue. People
Totally.
just want to put out positive content, get their downloads up, maybe generate some ad reads, something like that. Like nobody is in it to sandbag somebody. Like, what about that DUI you got back in 1994? Can we talk about that? Like, it's not, I find that
No.
that kind of stuff is more for Twitter where people like attack people like on social media. Podcasting is such a positive experience, and again, it's one of those things where we didn't really know how to enforce anything
True
other than,
enough.
you know what, we're giving you an opportunity to talk to Tom Arnold. Don't mess it up. And if you
Yeah, fair
do,
enough.
like, so we'll deal with it when we get there. But
Yeah,
hopefully,
yeah,
so far so good.
absolutely. And so, I mean, obviously, celebrities have a huge social following. What are the rules about once it goes live? Like, do you inform the celebrity? Do they promote it, not promote it? Like, what can you expect?
When we do initially sign up the celebrities, we ask them, once you join Podstars, all we ask is you're on time for the interview. And once the interview's done, I'll reach out to them by Instagram or whatever and say the episode's dropping that you did on such and such a date. Please retweet, like, comment. Some celebrities will follow you depending on who they are.
Hmm.
Again, not under contract to do so, so
Okay.
I leave it strictly up to the celebrities. But for the most part, they will like and retweet it because they have a huge following on social media as well. And there's a good chance there's podcasters on there. The
Yeah.
podcast community, the podcaster who's booking the guest obviously has podcasters following them. And then Podstars retweets it and likes it, all that good stuff too. So it's like a three-pronged social media attack, and everybody
Ooh.
wins because Tom Arnold can say, like, oh, I just did this podcast, book me on Podstars. People who
Hmm.
didn't know he was there, all of a sudden, like, oh my God, I can talk to Tom. Oh my Lord. Now the podcasters that are following the podcast are like, man, that's crazy. I want him for my show. Now they book him. And then Podstars has a pretty good following on Instagram and a decent following on Twitter. So we do what we can by putting it out, commenting, liking, retweeting, all that good stuff. And yeah, we also for every interview booked, Podstars asks you, the podcaster, to send us your logo, and then we put a custom graphic together with your logo and the guest that you've booked, and we do that absolutely free and send it out to you so that you can put it out on your socials to help you with a little bit of steam and gain some
Yeah.
momentum and hopefully get some more downloads as well, all free of charge, all part of the Podstars package.
That's super cool. I never even thought about that angle of like the role that you would take as Podstars to help kind of get that more exposure, and obviously it benefits everybody involved. But yeah, that's kind of cool. That's a good step.
And I'm on Podstars as well, and I'm free to book. So if you wanted to talk to me about Podstars or
Yeah.
when I try to be a professional wrestler or anything else that I've done in my life, I mean, I'm available. I make myself totally available, and like I said, nothing's off limits. So happy
Yeah.
to do it.
Love it. Awesome. And so what kinds of celebrities just kind of like when you go there, are there different categories? Like how do you search or narrow down your like who you want to have on the show? I'm stumbling on my words.
On the website, you mean, like,
Yeah.
how do we do it? Okay, so when we first started doing this, we did the same thing as everyone else, social media. But we quickly found out that, we can easily be ignored. And we after talking to a lot of celebrities, their DMs are open, but they just scroll through them. They're not even reading anything. They're looking for someone they recognize, a friend or a colleague or whatever. So, Podstars could send them a DM and they're just scrolling right through it. So
Yeah.
we figured the best way to do it is to get right in front of them. So we started going to Comic Cons, and I would walk up with my business
Oh,
card
that's a good
and
idea.
just tell them, this is what we are, this is
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you do. You're on Cameo. This is very similar. That really works. If they're on Cameo, it's so
Yeah,
much easier to
easy.
explain. But yeah, it's so we didn't go after a specific genre, although during our research and development, we did know that true crime was the number one podcast. So we really
Mm.
focused on that comedy, and somehow we turned into a professional wrestling website, which uh, I don't know
That's
how it
because of
happened.
you though, because you love it so much.
Well, and that's what my wife says. She
I
says, "You
know,
build
just bugging
Podstars,
you.
so you could be a wrestler, right?" But no, it's like once we had a few wrestlers on the site,
Yeah,
they're in a very tight community. Those people, they've wrestled with each other for 20, 30 years. So they just reach out and say, like, hey man, I'm making money on Podstars and I'm going on podcasts and blah blah. And next thing you know, I'm getting flooded on my DMs by people like I was a fan of, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And I'm getting a phone call from Tito Santana at 9:30 on a Friday night. Like,
that's ridiculous.
so we worked really hard on the true crime because we know that it's such a huge draw. So
Absolutely.
we got CSI experts. We have, like I
Oh,
said, we have
cool.
we have a judge. We have several lawyers. We have sheriffs. We have anything that you would want to talk about true
Yeah.
crime. We've checked that box. So when you go on the Podstars website, it's all it's true crime. You got a
I
list
was
of
just gonna
people.
say, so you can find the categories to
Absolutely.
like narrow down your search to find what you're looking for.
We have celebrity true crime people, which, the judge, she's a celebrity, part of that category. And then we have our community, which is our professionals, where it's free for $8.99 a month, and you have
Oh, is
full
that all?
access to over 200 professionals. That's where you find the lawyers, the sheriffs, and a few other people. And the CSI expert. Crime Con was just last week in Nashville, so we had a
Mm,
huge PodStars team representation over there. So
yeah,
we got some
awesome.
few more true crime people coming our way. So, and we're adding new guests pretty much every week. Being from Toronto, or sorry, you're not from Toronto, but being
Yeah.
from, you're from Toronto. Okay. If you remember, Lunette the Clown from Big Comfy Couch by any chance?
Yes.
We just signed her to Podstars last week. We ran
That's
into her
hilarious.
Markham, and I didn't even know because like, she was my daughter's favorite by far.
Oh,
She
really?
saw, oh my God, we had the clown toy. We saw her show. Wow, I've watched that show more times than I can care to
Yes.
admit. But when I met with her, she's also the voice of X-Men on the Disney show. That's the animated X-Men that's on there,
Oh,
and I didn't even know that. So she checks a lot of boxes. So if
yeah.
you're Canadian and saw her, and she hopefully kept your child company while you did your dishes or your laundry or whatever, you could talk to her about that, but also about
Yeah.
X-Men, and she has a few
Oh,
other
that's
voiceover
neat.
roles as well. So yeah, we really work hard to make sure that we present as many amazing people to the podcast community as possible, because there is literally a podcast about everything.
Yeah.
So
Ain't that the
why
truth?
not why not cover every base and make sure that everybody has someone that they can book? Or if you, like I said, even if it's not in the genre you're looking for, you can find another amazing guest. You'd be like, wow, you know what? May not be what I talk about on my show, but I want to talk to this person regardless.
Sometimes it's all about positioning and how you frame it.
1,000%, 1,000%. I mean, there's so many interesting people in the world,
Yeah.
and all it takes is 15 or 20 minutes to book them, and you'd be like, wow, I'm really glad I did that.
Yeah. That's cool. Um, yeah, I've never honestly thought about having a celebrity on my show because I don't know why. You just, get stuck in your own lane doing your own thing.
Sure.
But that is a really cool idea to do. And honestly, even just for the sake of like getting people's attention, like, ooh, I'm having this person on my show.
Yep.
It's just that you want to attract your ideal client, but you also want to just stand out from the crowd and
Yep.
get people's attention. And what a fun way, honestly.
And the build up is fun because you could
Yeah.
have like a countdown to Tom Arnold. I'm
Yeah,
having Tom
yeah.
Arnold. There's 3 days left. Another thing is we found that it also makes you a better interviewer, because you don't
Mm,
want to have someone on your show and kind of stumble over your words or not be, set up appropriately. You want to make sure this interview goes off perfectly. So you're
right.
working extra hard to make sure that this interview is seamless. Your questions are crisp. You're very entertaining, and you also stay in the time allotted, which is also very important, because a
Right.
lot of celebrities were saying, and this is one of the reasons they've joined Podstars, is they would answer an Instagram message or whatever, be on my show for half an hour. Well, now 55 minutes has gone by and the
Mm,
podcast hasn't done yet. And they were kind enough to give you 30 minutes and
yeah,
you've stretched it out to 55. And again, that's what doesn't make them want to do free podcasts
absolutely.
anymore, is they've been taken advantage of. And our site has a countdown clock. So as soon as you hit record, at
Oh,
2 o'clock, if you book time on for 2 o'clock, it automatically starts to count down. And now you've only got about 8 minutes left. And Tom Arnold knows you've only paid for
yeah,
such time. So they will go over. It's not like the show shuts down, but
right.
at least it gives
You
everybody
need to
like
be
a
respectful of the time. Yeah.
respectful. Exactly. Like, it's people, everyone has stuff to do. And the last thing you want to do is take advantage of somebody, especially somebody fantastic, like some of the celebrities that we have.
Yeah. That's so cool. Who would you like to get on your pod stars if you had a choice? Who would be your top
Oh,
three?
oh wow. As a wrestling nerd, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
For sure, Hulk Hogan. Morgan Freeman. I would love to have Morgan Freeman, and Bill Burr.
Who's Bill
Bill
Burr?
Burr's my Bill Burr, the comedian. Uh, he's a bald-headed.
Yeah.
Do I have him here? I do. This guy right here. I don't know if you can
Oh,
see
okay.
him.
Yeah, yeah,
Billy
yeah.
Burr. Yeah, I'm a massive fan of his comedy. Dave Chappelle also. Dave Chappelle will be
Well, yeah.
fantastic. But he's worth about $800 million, so I don't think he
Yeah,
needs Podstars.
exactly. What is the price range for booking the celebrities?
Good question. Hard to answer because
Yeah,
it's just like Cameo, where we've had celebrities say, like, I've never done this before. What should I charge? What
right.
I tell the celebrities at the time is the more affordable and the more available you make yourself, the more you'll get booked. And if you find yourself getting booked too much,
Yeah,
then maybe you can raise your rate a few dollars. If you find that you're not getting booked enough, go the other way.
yeah.
But either way, I'm here to help them. And I do talk to the celebrities quite a bit. And, like, it's a very uncomfortable conversation to have with somebody because you don't want to feel like you're telling them what they're worth. So when
Right.
it's hard. So I have to tiptoe around it very carefully, but I give them a few suggestions. And so far, again, I haven't had an issue.
Yeah.
Um, I would say the ballpark, if I were to ballpark it for 45 minutes, you can find a lot of good talent on your show for as low as $55.
Oh, wow. That's way better than I thought it would be.
There are
Yeah.
some people who are a little higher.
Yeah.
And then again, I'm not going to drop names, but we've had some conversations with some people who I would list as D-list celebrities, and they were like, "Well, I want $1,000," and I was like, "You can ask. I don't know
Hmm.
if you'll get it, and I don't
Yeah.
want you to come back to me and say like, why am I not getting booked?
I know.
Because you're a little bit unattainable at this point financially, anyways."
Who have you been the most starstruck over that you've gotten on?
Well, Tom Arnold was a big one
Yeah, I
because
could see that.
when I talked to him in Niagara Comic Con, we went up and I was a little nervous
Yeah.
because he is as close to A-list as we have right now. I mean, he's been, he's on Netflix. He's with
Oh,
Arnold Schwarzenegger,
absolutely.
his friend, married to Roseanne, stand-up comedy, author. I mean, the guy has done a lot.
Oh, he's
So
hilarious.
when I walked up to him, I noticed that I was talking a little bit quicker, and he actually was like, "Whoa, slow down." And I was with my wife, and he's like, "Tell me about your wife. How are you? Are you guys married? What's the situation here?" And he's just joking around, and he made it so comfortable
Aw.
that I kind of calmed down. I was like, "All right, sorry, let me start again, my friend." And we just started talking, and he gave me his email address. And there are times where celebrities give me their email address, and it doesn't go anywhere. But Tom was quick enough to answer, and the first line
Wow.
he wrote back was, "Yes, I do remember you because I remember your lovely wife." So when I showed that
So
to my
now you
wife,
need
she's
to
like,
go around everywhere with your wife.
"Well, I know I would, but she doesn't want to do that." So I mean, I don't. I got to rent a wife. I don't know how I'm going to make that happen. I'm going to kill this. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm
But a lot
so
of the
glad
professional
that you,
wrestlers are great too.
what's that? Who?
All the professional wrestlers that we talk to,
Yeah.
they're such great people. They're fantastic, and it's nice when you get people who interview somebody and then come back to you and say something like, "You know what? I was a fan of Devon Dudley back in ECW, and you gave me access to him. So thank you very much. It was a fantastic interview." So it's things like that that make this all worthwhile because
Yeah.
it's a struggle and it's very time consuming. So it makes it all worthwhile for us.
Absolutely. And it's, yeah, it would totally make your day and be something that's super memorable. And it's encapsulated forever online on YouTube and, audio and so forth. So you you get to keep that forever.
It's like a time capsule, except
Yeah.
on in space or the cloud or wherever. I don't even know if
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Internet land, I call it.
Internet world. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, tell people how they can get involved and find you, and so they can book their next celebrity on their show.
So the website is podstars.net. Very easy to find. As soon as you click on, you'll see Tom Arnold. You'll see a few professional wrestlers. You'll see a few other
Yeah.
people on there. So that's the website. We're all over social media. We're very easy to find. We're not so active on YouTube and TikTok right now. We're building that up. Right now, we're very big on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So you can find us at
Yeah.
podstars_net or just podstars on any of those. Very easy to find. And if you wanted to reach out to us via email, it's podstars.info@gmail.com. Like I said, ask me anything. If you want to ask about Podstars, if you want to ask about podcasting,
Yeah.
anything, I'm an open book. I'm always here to help, and I'm willing to chat. And via email, via Zoom, via social media, I'm here for you.
Perfect. And that's Podstars with a Z, just like on your hat.
Correct. Podstars with a Z.net.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the
Oh,
show.
thank you so much for having me.
And
It's been awesome.
yeah, so I'm gonna have to check out the your Rolodex now to see what celebrity I can book.
Yeah. And if anyone has suggestions on people they like to book, or maybe
Ooh,
you want Podstars to get, give us a suggestion
yeah.
and we will go after them. It's worked before in the past where someone said, like, can I get this person on the
Yeah.
show? We don't have them, but let's do it. And it works. So
Yeah.
it's a team effort, so we can do it together. So we're willing to try.
Awesome. Love it. All right. Thank you again
You're
for
very
being on
welcome.
my show
Thank you so much.
and sharing a great opportunity for people to boost their ratings and have fun while they're doing it.
Exactly. 1000%.
All right. Thanks, folks. And we'll see you next week on the Leverage Your Podcast show.
Bye-bye.